Welcome to another episode of BDO 2017. This is Moreland bringing you an introduction to the gathering life skill. This video will talk about why you should gather, how to set it up, and then I'll show you 3 of my favorite spots to get you started. As always, feel free to check the description for a table of contents with shortcuts if you'd like to skip around the video. The benefits of gathering are numerous. First of all, there's a variety of materials in the game such as leather, blood, meat, rough stone, and regular logs that you can only get in large quantities from gathering. Getting these materials off the market is very difficult, so if you're crafting an inferior boat or if you have a workshop that requires hides, something like that, you're going to want to gather these materials yourself. But even if you're not doing any crafting, gathering can be a very good money maker. With just a little bit of setup, you can expect to make about 15 million silver per hour, and it's a much easier life skill to get into than something like cooking or alchemy in terms of setup. So the 15 million hour number comes from partially from the material that you're gathering yourself. So in this case, we use lamb meat as an example. Up here on Goat Mountain, you can gather about 4 million silver an hour worth of lamb meat once your gathering skill hits professional 10. And then in addition to the 4 million silver an hour from the lamb meat, you can also get hard and sharp black crystal shards, which are the materials that you need to upgrade your gear beyond plus 15. So these are very important materials. They're always in demand, they're always sold out on the market, and you can gather about 5 million silver an hour worth of hards and about 6 million an hour worth of sharps at a spot like Goat Mountain. So add all that together, we get the figure of 15 million silver an hour. And you're probably thinking, that's a pretty good number, so what are the limitations? And there's really only 2. The first limitation is your energy pool. Gathering does require energy to use. As your gathering skill increases, you can get more uses with less energy, but regardless, you are still gated every day based on your overall energy pool, so once this hits to 0, you can't gather anymore. And in addition to your energy pool, you're also limited by how many tools you can acquire. But let's talk about how we can work around that. So the first tool that you can get right off the bat as a new player, you can just click this NPC button, click on material, and you can find a basic tool selling NPC who will give you some crappy tools to get you started. The other way you can acquire tools is off the market. There are 3 different tools that are sold on the market. There's basically green, blue, and yellow. Sometimes these can be difficult to purchase depending on the type of tool. But the green tools you can use right away. They don't have any skill requirement, and these will shave 4 seconds each off of your gathering time. The blue tools then kick in at beginner 10. Beginner 10 is actually very easy to get. You can probably get it in 1 day, and this will allow you to shave 8 seconds off your gathering time. And then finally, there are yellow tools, which will shave 10 seconds off your gathering time, but you won't be able to use these until skilled 10. The end game tools that you want to aim for are either magic tools or the lucky version of the yellow tools. These are basically equivalent, whether it's a lucky tool or a magic tool. It's going to have about double the rare proc rate of a regular tool. So once you get your setup and once you get your funding, you're going to want to gather exclusively with either lucky tools or magic tools. The lower level lucky tools are good as well, so if you get like a lucky blue tool, that's also worth using. It'll just be a bit slower than the yellow versions. If you can't acquire the tools off the market, if they're just too sold out, you can also make them yourself. So you can do this in pretty much any town. Just click a town, go up to the corner here where the tool workshop is. A level 1 tool workshop will give you those green tools, level 2 for blue, and then level 3 for yellow tools. When you craft these, you have about a 1 in 10 chance to get the lucky version. So usually it's better to just try to pre-order the lucky tools off the market. The prices for those can range, in my experience, anywhere from $1 to $1.5 million. But it all just depends on the market. It depends on what sort of events are in the game. Sometimes there will be special events that will flood the market with magic tools and the prices will go down. But generally speaking, if you're pre-ordering, look somewhere between the 1 mil and 1.5 mil range, and you should be able to buy those high-end tools once you get to that point where you can afford them. Like I said, in the meantime, as a newer player, you can just craft yourself some green or blue tools at these workshops. The materials are pretty easy to get a hold of. The yellow tools are a bit more expensive. They require pure crystals. But if you don't want to bother with that, then like I said, just pre-order these off the market instead, and make sure that you're going for the lucky versions. One more thing when it comes to tools, these cannot be repaired. So whatever durability the tool has, when that hits 0, the tool is worthless. You just throw it away and get a new one. So extending the durability of your tools is very important. The best way to do this is to get a weapon with 2 crystal slots and slot them both with plus 10 durability resistance. So I use a plus 1 Kreia weapon for this. The only reason I use it plus 1 is so I don't accidentally throw it away or sell it. But any 2-slot weapon will work. So Kreia and Rosar are probably the best ones. They're both cheap off the market and they both have 2 slots. Get the durability gems and slot these in here, and that'll make your gathering tools last 20% longer. If you can't find durability gems on the market, you can craft them with alchemy. Check bddatabase.net if you want to see what the recipe is for crafting the durability reduction tools. Finally, there is another way that you can reduce the durability on your tools. This is probably not worth the money, but if you already have a crab or a fox anyways, then make sure you have them out while you're gathering. These guys get a 1% durability resistance per tier. So theoretically, with 4 tier 4 foxes, you could get 16% durability reduction. Like I said, upgrading pets in this game is really expensive. I would not say that this is worth the money, but if you happen to have a fox or a crab already, then make sure that you have them out while you're gathering, and you'll get some extra durability resistance on those tools. So the next bit of setup that we need to talk about is your gathering level. And I don't mean gathering skill, although this certainly helps, and as your gathering skill goes up, you will get more materials. By the time your gathering hits professional 10, you'll be getting the max yield, so you have that to look forward to. Once you hit that threshold, you'll be getting the most materials possible out of any given gathering material, and you'll also use less energy. But when I say gathering level, I'm actually referring to this thing right here. Right now, mine says 4 level. You want to get this up to 5. Each of these levels reduces the amount of time that it takes to gather, so it's very, very important to max this out if you can. The best way to max this out, there's a couple different things that you want to add together to get to plus 5. First of all, you've got your guild skill. If you aren't in a guild that has Nimble Fingers level 2, then you should really talk to your guild master about getting it. It's one of the first skills that guilds should really learn with their guild points. And this will give everyone in the guild a permanent plus 2 gathering level, which makes it way easier to hit that plus 5 mark. So get in a guild that has plus 2 gathering. That'll start you off. The next thing that you want to do is get your hands on a silver embroidered gatherer's clothing. The plus 2 version of this will give you 2 gathering speed, but if you can't afford to smash a plus 2, then just go with a base gathering set. You can get these on the market under armor, functional clothes. The base gatherer's clothes here will give you plus 1 gathering level, so if that's all you can afford, that's fine. Go ahead and pick that up for now. And then later on, when you can invest in getting more of these, you can upgrade them and go for a plus 2. Unfortunately, the plus 1 does not increase your gathering speed. It gives you a little bit more gathering experience, but that's it. So I recommend go with the plus 0, or if you can afford it, jump all the way to the plus 2 to get that extra benefit. And then finally, the best way to cap out your gathering speed is with a life alchemy stone. If you don't know about alchemy stones yet, or you can't afford these, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you a few other things, but ideally you do want a gold alchemy stone of life. This will not only give you gathering speed, it will also give you gathering item drop rate. So it's very, very important in the long run to have one of these. But like I said, as a new player, don't sweat it. There's some other stuff that you can use. You can go into the market and look for something called Balenos meal. This is a food buff that lasts 90 minutes that will give you plus 2 gathering speed. In addition to Balenos meal, there's also an elixir that you can use called Worker Elixir. This stuff right here. It's usually sold out, so it's kind of hit or miss. I think if you check the market for a few minutes, you can probably snag some of these, but you know, just get them if you can. These are another +2 gathering speed. You probably won't need this. I mean, if you're in a guild and you have a silver embroidered costume, that's +2, an additional +1, and then the Balenos meal should put you up to +5. But if your guild doesn't have it, you might have to get these worker elixirs. And then finally, there's one more way to get your gathering level up, and that is with the ghillie suit, the tree ant camouflage suit. This is absolutely not worth it just for gathering, but if you already have a camouflage suit anyways because you like to hide your name, then you know, make sure to put this on while you're gathering, and you'll get an extra +1. So I know that was a lot of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and throw this all up on the screen, so if you need to pause the video right now and recap everything that I just said, there you go. You can go ahead and pause it. And now we're going to talk about a couple more pieces of setup before we talk about the actual spots. There's a few ways you can actually increase your gathering rate. We already talked about the Life Alchemy Stone, so make sure to get one of these if you can afford it. But in addition to the Alchemy Stone, there's also Fig Pie, and Fig Pie is pretty cheap off the market. Even as a new player, you should be able to snag this. It only costs a few thousand silver, and this will increase your gathering chance by +3. If you're combining this with Balenos meal, keep in mind the 30-minute cooldown, so you kind of have to plan your gathering sessions ahead of time. You'll want to eat that Balenos meal, and then 30 minutes later eat the Fig Pie, and then you'll be ready to go. So try to get +5 gathering speed without the Balenos meal, but you know, if you can't, then you'll just have to plan ahead a little bit. And then finally, there's one more way to increase your gathering yield. That's going to be the Hedgehog. Currently, you can only get the Hedgehog as part of Amerigo's welcome package. So if you feel like spending this much money in the cash shop and getting all this stuff, the Hedgehog is one of the things inside this package. We don't know if they're going to add the Hedgehog to the normal pet store or anything like that. For now, at the time of this video, this is the only way to get it. And this guy will give you about a 20% boost to your gathering. I'm still getting data on that, so the 20% number might not be perfect. It might be a little higher or a little lower. But either way, it's a pretty significant buff. It's also definitely not mandatory. So if you're not looking to spend money on the game, don't feel pressured to buy this. You can still make very good money from gathering without spending money on the cash shop. But I just thought I'd point it out in case you feel like making that purchase. Alright, now let's talk about a few of my favorite gathering spots. So currently we're up here on Goat Mountain. You guys have probably heard of Goat Mountain before. It tends to be one of the more gathering spots, or more popular gathering spots. We're in between Velia and Heidel up in this mountain range here. And I'm kind of halfway up the mountain in this grassy area. It's a little bit hard to see right now because it's nighttime. But basically you go about halfway through the mountain here and there's just sheep all over the place. This is a pretty popular spot, so you might run into other players out here. If that's the case, then, you know, just go ahead and walk to the left or the right, and you'll find plenty more sheep. If it's prime time and it's absolutely crowded, you can try to find a different channel, but usually there's enough sheep to go around. Like I said, just look around a bit, and you can find these big clusters of sheep. And the reason this spot is so good is just because of the density. There's sheep everywhere. So let's go ahead and turn on our alchemy stone. I've already got the Fig Pie running. And I'll show you guys what this looks like once you have the right tools and once you have gathering level 5. You can actually get your gathering speed down to about 2 seconds. So much faster than the 20-second speed that you start off with as a new player. So this will kind of show you what you have to look forward to. And look at that, we already got a lucky gather. So Sheep Mountain, very good gathering spot to get you started. You can use the meat, like I mentioned earlier, to just sell directly on the market for about 4 mil an hour, or you can save the meat and use it in cooking. Probably the two most popular cooking recipes for meat are meat stew, which you can use for imperial cooking. You could turn it into the imperial vendor, or good feed, which is just a popular pet food recipe that you can sell on the market to other players. There's other uses for meat as well, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this video. Feel free to, again, check BD database or use F2 if you want to look at different cooking recipes and get some ideas. But now let's go ahead and head to spot number 2, and I'll show you some other stuff that you guys can gather. Alright, so now we are in the Media region. We are just south of Kusha. In between the roads right here, there's a huge spawn of stonehead bison. You're going to want to use a tanning knife for these. And the reason why the hide from these are so useful is because they can be used to craft Gruntle and Urea weapons in a workshop. So these things will pull, so when you aggro one, a whole bunch more will run towards you. It's very easy to AoE them down. Keep in mind, these are level 50 mobs, so if you're a brand new player, you might struggle with these a bit, but I would think by the time you get probably around like 70-80 AP, you should be able to totally shred these. Basically, you tan these for their hide, and then you're going to want to process the ox hide into tough hide, and then process the tough hide again into fine tough hide. And fine tough hide is the material that you need to craft Gruntle and Urea in a workshop. I'm not really going to talk in depth about workshops here. You'll have to check another video for that. But basically, for those of you who are running Gruntle and Urea workshops right now, they're very good money, especially because of all the new players coming into the game who are buying those things off of the markets. And the best way to keep your Gruntle and Urea workshops supplied is this spot right here, just south of Kusha. The third spot that I wanted to show you guys is Pilgrim's Haven. So a lot of people see me doing this on the stream and they're always asking where this is. This is out in the desert. You can't actually see my location on the map, but if you can find Sandgrain Bazaar, you basically want to head straight east until you see a series of rocks, and then turn and cut straight north from there. At that point, you will see a bunch of these little trees around here. It'll be pretty easy to tell that this is Pilgrim's Haven. There's not really any other trees out in the desert besides these. So, like I said, if you need to find this place, just head straight east from Sandgrain Bazaar and then head straight north once you get past the rocky cliff. And the reason this place is so good, you're going to want to bring a pickaxe here. And all these little stones here are actually individual nodes. So the problem with this place is that it tends to be very popular. And depending on the time of day you come here, it might be all mined out. But it looks like it's okay for now. We will go ahead and let me turn on the Oxstone. Let me turn on our Fig Pie. And we'll go ahead and start slamming these. And as you can see, you can pretty much just walk around this one little pile and continuously mash the gather button. And you can do this for every one of these little piles. I'm just going to briefly show you guys the route that I do. So I usually start over here at kind of the eastern edge of Pilgrim's Haven. I hit these little piles if they are available. And then go to the middle part right here. Hit the rocks around this pyre. We continue down this road. Turn to the left and there's going to be a couple more piles over here. And yeah, it looks like there already is somebody on this channel mining it, so that's why some of the rocks were out. But there's a few more piles over here that you want to do close to the scorpions. Once you finish these piles, you head down. Another pile right here. A few more piles over here. And you can also hit these individual rocks in between, especially if there's already somebody else on your channel. You can smack these. But as you can see, once you get a higher gathering skill, there's just a ton of different materials that you can get from these. There's the rough stone, zinc, silver. You can also get golds. I believe you can get platinum ore out here. You can get copper ore out here. The rough stone is the main reason why people come out here. The other materials, for the most part, like the copper and the zinc, you can get with workers. But it's really nice to have a spot where you can gather, especially the zinc yourself as well, because it's a pretty valuable material. But yeah, there's just a whole bunch of rocks to hit out here. This is definitely the best spot in the game for rough stone, and one of the best spots in the game, period, just in terms of silver per hour from gathering, whether you're using the materials yourself or selling them to the market. There's just a bunch of stuff you can mine out here. The drawbacks of this place, obviously, it's in the desert, so make sure you're bringing water if you're here during the day, and star anise tea if you're here at night. And like I said, just be careful about when you come here, because it does tend to be a pretty crowded spot. If you come here during prime time, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 other people on the channel that you're competing with, and it's kind of not worth it anymore. I also wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about underwater gatherings, since I know some of you are going to be curious. Underwater gathering in general is usually not worth it, but there is one spot straight north of Velia, to the west of Al Naha Island, that is actually very good if you have enough cooking skill to make Magoria seafood extravaganza. So Magoria seafood is the most valuable cooking recipe in the entire game currently. It sells on the market for over 100k each, When I tested this out, I was easily making at least 10 million silver an hour just in the materials that I was gathering. Not even talking about hard and sharp procs, but just in the Magoria seafood. When I combined the amount of time that it took to come out here, gather the materials, come back to town and cook it, the money was very, very good. The reason why I am not showing it to you guys right now is because I just can't stand underwater gathering in this game. I can't stand the water movement, so I don't really want to show out there and show it to you in person, but you can find the spots to gather by using FAM's map, somethinglovely.net/BDO. Go down to the gathering nodes, go to underwater, click on Giant Pearl Oyster. This is Alnaha Island right here. Let me just zoom out to give you some perspective. And you can see that the cluster here is very dense. So the idea is you swim around, you gather all these, and then once you're done, you change channels, you gather them again. It takes a little while to swim around, so usually by the time you've scooped all these up, your 15-minute channel timer is up, and you could swap again. There is a chance that you will swap into a channel that someone else has already cleared, but I would say that chance is very, very low. I don't think a lot of people do this. I think most people, including myself, like I said, don't really like the water movement in this game and kind of avoid this kind of stuff. But even with me just sort of aimlessly wandering and not really even knowing where the nodes were, I was still able to get pretty good money from this. So if you actually memorize the route and become efficient at this, I imagine the money is pretty insane. On top of that, the rest of us will be very thankful that you are selling us the Magoria seafood. I will happily pay you max price for it. So if you want to make some money and save the rest of the server some headache, then feel free to get into underwater gathering. The best way to enhance your underwater gathering is to use breathing crystals in your boots. So you can get these off the market. And these will increase your underwater breathing by 15 seconds each. Put 2 of them in your shoes. And then in addition to that, you're going to want to buy Agile Seal Elixirs. These will also give you an extra 15 seconds of underwater breathing. Finally, you may want to invest in either the fishing suit or the diving suit from the cash shop. Both of them will increase your swim speed. And in addition to swim speed, the diving suit will also increase your underwater breathing. So if you want to invest in those so that you can swim a little bit faster, then go ahead and do so. There's a few more resources that I want to point you guys towards before we end the video. The first one obviously being Bowser's website, blackdesertanalytics.com. Just bookmark this site. I'm probably going to mention it in just about every video. It's very useful for every single life skill in the game, and gathering is included in that. He has some spreadsheets here that will show you data on gathers per minute at various different locations throughout the game, various different materials. He also has some interesting information on hard and sharp gather rates. I use these to calculate our hourly money when I was talking about that 15 mil an hour earlier. This is the data that I use to calculate all that. So yeah, definitely visit Bowser's website if you want some additional information about gathering or about any life skill in the game, really. And then finally, I have one of my older videos might be interesting to you guys if you're new to the game and you're trying to work on both your gathering XP and your contribution XP. Check out the 260 CP gathering, or not gathering, the how I got 260 contribution video. It also has gathering and alchemy in the title. Like I said, it's one of my older videos, but I believe that route is still intact. That'll take you through the Olvia and Velia dailies for some gathering XP and some contribution XP. It's a good way to get into gatherings as a new player and kind of power level your skill a little bit. That's all I have for you guys today. I may do an advanced gathering video in the future where we go over more spots than just the 3 that we showed here. If so, you'll find a link to that on the screen. And other than that, you guys can support me on Patreon if you like this kind of content. You can visit me on Twitch if you want to visit the live stream. I'll put all that stuff in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.